The car slid along the dirt road, as if the forest were slowly trying to swallow it. With every meter they advanced, the sounds of the world seemed to fade. No bird song, no insect buzz, only the crunch of tires on loose stones and the dry snap of branches, as if someone were stepping on them just ahead. Lucas adjusted his glasses and glanced at Helena, who kept her eyes fixed on the trail. She looked exhausted, but determined.
We're here, honey. The GPS just cut off.
Seems perfect.
The cabin emerged between the trees like a forgotten memory. Small, rustic, with boarded-up windows. It was the last attempt to pause before the end, or a new beginning.
I don't hear anything.
Lucas said, as he stepped out of the car.
Exactly why we came here, right?
Helena replied, but the silence wasn't peaceful. It was dense, as if the forest were holding its breath. To the side of the cabin stood an old, dead tree unlike any of the others. Its dead leaves covered the ground even without wind, even without falling. Lucas noticed it, but said nothing. Only when he stepped on them did he feel something strange. The leaves crackled, but the sound wasn't just leaves. It sounded like a whisper, low, almost a lament. He turned sharply. Nothing there, just trees. But the feeling of being watched had already begun. The first night in the cabin was too quiet. No crickets, no owls, only the sound of dead leaves, shifting, even without wind. Lucas couldn't sleep. The mattress creaked. Somewhere, water dripped from the ceiling, but he couldn't tell where. In his mind, that yes made noise. He thought about the company, the betrayal, the guilt he never knew how to handle. And now, in the emptiness of the forest, everything seemed louder, closer. Helena slept beside him, restless, muttering scattered words. Lucas tried to ignore it, until she clearly whispered.
He's still here.
Lucas got up slowly and walked to the kitchen for water. As he passed the back window, he froze. The dead tree was there, still, as always. But now, something was at its base. It looked like a hunched figure, a body. He couldn't see clearly. He squinted. The figure moved slowly like it was crawling toward the back door. Lucas blinked. Nothing there. He returned to the bedroom faster than he wanted to admit. The next morning, he pretended everything was normal. But Helena noticed.
Did you hear it too?
She asked.
Hear what?
He deflected.
The whisper. From the leaves, the ones under the tree.
Lucas didn't answer, because the sound was still in his mind, like an echo scratching from the inside. Outside, the forest looked denser. The sunlight barely made it through the canopy, and the dead tree now seemed bigger, more alive, as if it had fed on something. Helena walked toward it, while Lucas watched from the porch.
There's something buried here,
she said, kneeling in the leaves. And then, her fingers touched wood, a piece of a cross, old, broken, and with something carved by knife. She listened. Now, she belongs to the forest. Helena brushed the soil around the cross with her bare hands, as if something inside her insisted she had to know what lay there. Lucas, uneasy, simply watched.
Is it a grave?
He asked.
If it is, it's forgotten, and poorly made.
On the trunk of the dead tree, Helena found something deeply carved, covered by moss and time. She scraped it with her fingernail, revealing a name, Anna Clara.
Sounds like a child's name.
Lucas felt a chill crawl up his spine, as if the air itself had shifted. A damp smell of rotting leaves and wet wood filled the air.
Let's go inside,
he said firmly.
This has nothing to do with us.
But as he turned, Lucas saw something out of the corner of his eye. At the edge of the forest, between the trunks, stood a figure, still, white, with long, tangled hair that fell like dead roots over its shoulders. It had no face, or at least, none he could see, but its arms were too thin, and it held them low, as if it had just risen from the ground. When he looked straight at it, it vanished. It didn't run, it simply ceased to be. He said nothing to Helena. That night, the whispers returned louder. They were no longer only in the leaves. They were inside the house. Soft footsteps in the hallway, a hand on the bedroom doorknob, and a child's voice right at the foot of the bed.
Can I come in now?
Helena woke up screaming. Lucas turned on the light, breathless.
Did you hear that?
She looked at him, eyes wide.
I saw her. She was beside me, sitting, watching you sleep.
At the dawn of the third day, the cabin felt different. The porch boards creaked louder, the air was thicker, and outside, dead leaves piled around the house, as if drawn by something, or someone. Helena ran her fingers over the name Anna Clara carved into the dead tree's trunk. Her face was pale, her eyes sunken. She hadn't slept.
I dreamed of her again, she said, eyes still fixed. But it wasn't a dream. I felt the ground, the cold, her pain.
Lucas didn't answer. He was reading notes he'd found in a hidden cabinet inside the cabin. An old notebook, its cover torn and moldy. It belonged to someone named D. Filomeno, apparently the land's previous owner. The pages told of a tragedy. A girl, only child, lived with her mother in a cabin where the dead tree now stood. The mother went mad after her husband died in the war. She began hearing voices, said the forest spoke to her, and one day, Anna Clara vanished.
The forest took her and feeds her with memories.
Lucas read aloud.
What does that mean?
Helena came closer.
The woman believed the girl became part of the forest, that she was buried, but alive, and that sometimes she whispers through the leaves so someone will listen.
Helena remained silent.
I heard her.
She said at last.
She showed me where she died.
Lucas frowned.
What do you mean?
Last night, she took me to a place. A clearing with stones in a circle, a burnt trunk in the center, and a doll on the ground, with her name stitched into the dress.
Lucas froze. I saw that, in the notebook. There's a sketch of it. It's real.
They both went out in search of the clearing. The forest felt denser, the branches intertwined, as if they didn't want to let them through, but guided by whispers now constant, almost like a lullaby they arrived. There it was, the circle, the burnt trunk, and the doll just like in Helena's dream, but there was more. Behind the trunk, half buried in moss, an old mirror, stained, foggy, and inside it, Helena's reflection was not her own. It was of a girl, white dress, empty eyes, and a smile that didn't match innocence. Helena dropped to her knees.
She wants out,
She whispered.
but she needs someone to take her place.
Lucas backed away,
We're leaving, now.
but the forest had already closed the path, and behind them, soft steps over dead leaves. Lucas pulled Helena by the hand, trying to find any opening in the vegetation, but the forest seemed to shift around them. Branches appeared where trails once were. Roots rose like fingers, blocking paths. The forest was aware.
Something's following us!
Lucas whispered, breathless. Helena suddenly stopped.
There's no point running. She already chose.
Stop it.
Lucas shook her,
You're not thinking straight.
but she looked at him with eyes that no longer seemed her own.
What if it's right? What if she just wants to rest?
In the clearing, the old mirror was cleaner than before. No one had touched it, but now it reflected the truth. In the glass, Lucas saw himself, embracing the girl, tenderly, and then he saw Helena, lying among the leaves, motionless. He stepped back. Behind him, the whispered voice of a child.
She promised me someone to stay in my place.
Lucas turned instinctively, and there she was,
Ana Clara.
more visible than ever. Distorted faces seemed to shift beneath her skin, as if her soul had been stitched together with borrowed memories. Her feet hovered inches above the leaves, but when they touched the ground, everything darkened. Light seemed to flee from her. Helena collapsed to her knees.
I saw what they did to her.
The mother tied the girl to the tree, said it would stop the forest from taking her. But the forest took her anyway, and now she wants to return. Lucas pulled her,
We're getting out of here. Do you hear me?
but Helena whispered.
I already gave up my place.
The forest erupted in motion. Branches tangled around the mirror. Roots rose from the soil, dragging Lucas to the ground. He fought, kicked, screamed, but with every move, he heard the dry leaves whisper louder.
Stay. Stay. Stay.
And then, everything stopped. Lucas opened his eyes. The cabin, daylight, Helena making coffee.
Honey, you slept in today.
He looked around, confused.
What happened yesterday?
Yesterday? We just got here, remember?
She laughed. Lucas rubbed his face. The forest seemed calm, but when he looked out the window, he saw the dead tree, and hanging from it, Anna Clara's doll, with her name stitched on the dress. And in the window's reflection, Helena smiled, but cast no shadow. 3 days had passed. Lucas tried to act normal, walked around the cabin, helped Helena, made coffee, but everything felt slightly wrong, as if you were living an imperfect loop of reality. The wall clock always read 3:12, even with new batteries. The bathroom mirror returned a delayed reflection, and every night he woke up to the sound of leaves whispering his name. On the first morning, he tried to leave by car. The road was gone, literally. Instead of a dirt path, there was only thick forest. The vegetation had sealed every exit, like a wound healing itself. Helena acted as if everything was normal. But it wasn't her. Not completely. She said things Helena would never say, as if she were trying to seem convincing. She wore different clothes, made coffee with sugar, not sweetener. Lucas tried to confront her.
Where is my wife?
She simply smiled.
She gave me a gift, the best I've ever received.
That night, Lucas went down to the cabin's basement, a place he didn't remember existing. The floorboards looked like they'd been recently pulled up. There, he found an altar of dry roots, arranged in a circle, with pieces of bone and old toys in the center. And among them, Helena's wedding ring, the real one. Lucas picked it up with trembling hands.
I know you're listening.
He shouted.
What do you want from me?
From the ceiling, suspended by branches like hooks, the mirror appeared, and in it, an image, himself, standing in that same forest, but in another time, aged, alone. A message written in blood across the frame read, "The forest feeds on what you hide, and it does not forget." Behind him, slow steps over the leaves, and the girl's voice.
She didn't just give me her place. She gave me you.
Lucas no longer slept. The nights had become a cycle of whispers and distorted images in the mirrors. The forest felt closer each day. The trees seemed to grow toward the cabin, inching nearer, dragging roots along the ground, pushing time, pushing his sanity. He tried to burn the altar, tried to destroy the mirror, tried to dig into the dry earth around the tree where it all began, but everything rebuilt itself. As if the forest were made of memory, as if it wanted to remember, and Lucas was the memory it refused to let go. One night, he found a cassette tape left on the porch, aged, mold growing on the edges, and the name Anna Clara written in smudged pen. Inside the cabin was an old tape player. He played the tape. The recording began with the sound of leaves being stepped on. Then, a woman's voice trembling.
Please, if anyone finds this, don't listen to the trees. Don't follow the whispers. She'll use what you love.
The tape hissed, and then the girl's voice.
I just wanted to play.
Silence. Then, Helena's voice.
Lucas, I'm sorry.
The tape player burst into flame on its own, melting like wax. That night, Lucas went out. The forest was waiting. Every step he took through the dead leaves made the branches tremble. The trees whispered his name.
Lucas. Lucas.
They called for him. He reached the clearing. The mirror was there now, massive, hanging between two twisted trunks. It reflected not the present, but the past. And inside the mirror, he saw Helena, alive, on the other side, trying to reach him with tearful eyes.
Lucas, get me out of here.
He reached out to the glass, crying.
Am I the one who's trapped?
The answer came from behind him, in the girl's voice.
She didn't give you in exchange. She tried to protect you. But now, it's too late.
The forest closed around him. The mirror shattered, and with it, reality. The next day, a search team found the cabin empty. No signs of recent occupation. But in the center of the clearing, among dead leaves and twisted roots, 2 broken mirrors, one with a woman's reflection, the other with a man staring back, as if still waiting to wake up. And when the wind blows in that forest, even today, the dead leaves whisper 2 names.
Lucas. Helena. Lucas. Helena. Lucas. Helena.